must be the one. The one that the prophecy spoke of.
Really? What else does the prophecy say?
Why, that the one will also believe any goddamn idiot thing you make up on the spot.
Get out of my car.
Originally, I planned on making a video for Shadow Warrior explaining why I thought it was an underrated gem that didn't receive much attention from the mainstream market. When I first bought the game in 2016 for under $20 at GameStop, I thought it was an excellent game. I liked the fast-paced combat, the different environments you fight in, and the hidden secrets scattered throughout the levels. However, after replaying it again, I realized there are plenty of flaws. The price tag when I first bought the game probably made me overlook some of Shadow Warrior's issues initially, but even with the game's flaws, I still recommend it even with the original $40 price tag the game had when it released. It's still a very enjoyable game and can easily be replayed again and again despite some of its shortcomings. The fast-paced gameplay is Shadow Warrior's best aspect to draw players in. You have a wide assortment of weapons to use against a wide variety of enemies. Instead of only carrying 2 weapons at a time, which most shooters in the 7th console generation did, you're allowed to carry the whole arsenal with you as you pick up new weapons throughout the game.
Flamethrower. Always wanted one of these. Ooh, flamey.
The guns are fun to use and can inflict horrific damage onto enemies. You can dual wield mini Uzis, take out enemies with your rocket launcher, or pin enemies with your crossbow onto walls, or pillows? What the hell? I do say that without upgrading your damage on both your weapons and your skills, some of the guns do feel underpowered on higher difficulties, especially the pistol and the flamethrower, which I barely used throughout most of my playthroughs. Speaking of upgrades, you have 3 different ways to upgrade Lo Wang. You can collect money to upgrade your weapons, karma points to upgrade your skills, and Kai crystals to upgrade your powers. Money can be found throughout the chapters, and even hidden statues to award the player with more money. You can upgrade the size of your weapon clips, damage, and even give a secondary firing mode such as the explosive crossbow bolts and the laser guided rockets. Karma points are gained from defeating enemies in the game, and even additional points based on your performance in fights. You can also find hidden secrets with additional karma points. With these points, you can upgrade your health, stamina, damage against demons, and even give yourself more moves with your katana. Kai crystals can be found throughout the game and can upgrade one of 4 powers that you have, such as the shield, the shockwave, the water trap, and the overpowered healing power. Yeah, we'll get to that one later. By the end of the game, these fights you get into really put your skills to the test. The game throws different combinations of enemy types at you, and you need to learn to adapt to each encounter. Standing still is not an option. You need to be constantly moving or else you will get swarmed. The enemies in the game can get enraged and they'll charge at you and cause serious damage to you. Thus, you need to learn to navigate an arena while dodging attacks and inflicting damage onto enemies. It gets harder to do this because you start facing off with tougher enemies. Birdmans can fly and shoot projectiles at you. Mothers drop these explosive bombs that follow you, and then they can charge at you as well. Warpers carry dual katanas and can teleport to you and are deadly up close. Trolls wield a shield and can stun you, and these are all just lower demons. There are 3 different types of greater demons that have their strengths and weaknesses. Warlords can send fireballs at you and can grab a hold of you to pull you in. However, they are slow and can be outmaneuvered from afar. Shamans can bring enemies back to life and summon new ones, thus you need to balance between damaging him and killing the enemies that he resurrected. He also isn't that fast and can be outmaneuvered as well, if you can outmaneuver the enemies he's spawning. The last greater demon isn't given a name, but essentially he charges at you and can cause serious damage if you aren't able to dodge it. However, once you eliminate all the other enemies in an arena, it's fairly easy to take them out by leading them to charge into a wall to get stunned, so then you can shoot them at their vulnerable back. These higher demons are mixed and matched with the lower demons to make for some intense fights in these different environments that you have to fight throughout the story. These different environments that you play in comprise of a town in Japan that's being invaded by Godzilla. What the hell? A graveyard, a shipyard in Osaka, a research facility in the mountains, and then the boss fights take place in the Shadow Realm. Most of these chapters also contain hidden areas where you can find extra money and karma points. These secret areas are actually levels from the original game, and that's pretty awesome. You can see how much graphics have changed over the years. While the story in this game isn't too important, it's more of a way to get you from one environment to the next, it was still enjoyable to play through. The banter between Lo Wang and Hoji lead to some pretty funny exchanges of dialogue.
Oh, fuck! Hoji! Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry. These portals aren't very precise.
You suck. Do you enjoy dropping me like that?
Just trying to land you in the air. It beats materializing a couple feet underground.
Your logic is sound.
Thank you.
And then through the backstory cutscenes, you slowly learn about the tragedy of Hoji. It's something you don't really expect because Hoji is such a lighthearted character, but slowly you learn the darker side to his role in the story. Even after replaying this game, I had chills watching the final scene, and I almost shedded a tear. The game mixes well between the comedy and the tragedy that occurs within the story. It's a simple story, but for a game like this, it works. However, what really holds Shadow Warrior back from being a masterpiece are the boss fights and the OP powers you are given. Let's start with the boss fights. There are 5 total in the game, with 2 of them being identical as the Zilla fight, and the other 3 being Gozu, Mezu, and Zing. All these fights could have had a chance to be amazing with the gameplay of Shadow Warrior, but they do not live up to the rest of the quality of the game. The Zilla fights don't really have much to be talked about. Zilla has the same attack pattern every single time. He will disappear for a short time and some dialogue would occur, then he'll appear behind you and attack you a few times. He'll teleport away and come back to attack you, and then he'll teleport again, except this time he charges at you, and if you get hit, it'll cause significant damage, although you can easily dodge it. Once he disappears, you can literally just drop your controller and then pick it back up when Hoji warns you that he's behind you. At the end of the Zilla fight, he starts healing, but you just have to keep swinging until his life bar depletes. This could have been such a great boss fight, having 2 very powerful characters duking it out with katanas, where you have to time your attacks and dodges in order to beat him. When you figure out how easy it is to beat him, it just becomes a slog of a fight as you slowly inflict damage into him, and then you're smashing your right trigger at the very end, wondering if this is actually what you're supposed to do because it takes forever to do it. Honestly, I'm not even sure if you are supposed to kill him this way or not. Maybe since I was on the insane difficulty setting, he is supposed to heal and then fight again with you instead of you just repeatedly swinging at him. Either way, these are just dumb ways to handle this boss fight, and it could have easily been one of the highlights of this game. The other 3 boss fights are better, but not great. They're average. While they aren't totally identical to each other, they pose the same generic mechanic of shooting the highlighted parts of a boss. When you do enough damage to them, they reveal their vulnerable spots, and then you shoot it until the spot gets destroyed. It would have been fine if the first boss fight was like this, but all 3 of them do the same exact mechanic with only minor changes. Gozu's boss fight is 100% this mechanic the whole time. You have to shoot through 4 armor pieces to take him down. Mezu switches it up, where you have to open the gate by standing on these circles while he's sending projectiles to you, but the circles don't close when you leave them, and the projectiles are easy to dodge, so this section just slows the fight to a crawl. Then, once you open it, Mezu flies down to close the gate, and then you have to shoot his wings. And then, once he closes it, he flies back up, and this repeats until you destroy his wings, and then you once again aim for the highlighted armor in his chest and shoot it until it opens it up to cause damage to him. Zhang's fight at least switches it up because the fight is split into 3 sections. The first fight is, well, the same format, except you only have to damage one piece of armor. The second section changes slightly because your movement is limited due to the smaller arena, but that's not really saying much, and you basically just shoot his chest. Then the third section of the fight is essentially Gozu's fight, except instead of shooting 4 armor pieces off, it's just shooting 3 armor pieces off because you already shot off 1 armor piece. So it's just the same trend as, well, usual. These 3 boss fights aren't particularly horrible. They're just way too similar to each other. And they basically have the same types of moves. It's also just the same strategy of running around the perimeter of the map to avoid attacks while picking up ammo and shooting the boss, so not much really changes throughout these boss fights. The 4 powers you are given in this game are not perfect. The Shockwave and the Flux perform the same function of stunning enemies, just the Shockwave being able to be spammed more often. The Shield you probably won't be using much at all, and then the healing, the healing power in this game is so overpowered. After replaying this game on insane difficulty, I realized that with this healing ability, there is almost no tension in fights. If you take damage, you can just back off from the fight and then heal and then jump back in. You can do this repeatedly, and therefore there are no consequences if you take too much damage in a fight. You can always heal after an encounter. Now, maybe if they didn't have all the upgrades for this ability, maybe it wouldn't be so overpowered. If you were to fully upgrade your health and ability, you could increase your health to over 104. And originally, when you start the game, your health's limit is 100. The Shockwave also becomes overpowered, because you can just stun enemies over and over again to get a headshot with the crossbow. This makes fights with the trolls and warpers so much easier. If they had put a meter that depletes when you use too much of your abilities, that only recharges by killing enemies, or have each ability have a cooldown timer, then that could probably make this much more balanced. The original Shadow Warrior was known for its difficulty, but these abilities take the tension away from these encounters. I'm guessing the healing ability was put in because the final difficulty setting was too hard without it. That final difficulty setting being heroic. In this setting, when you die, you have to start the whole chapter over again, and you take significantly more damage than in previous difficulties. I feel like beating this game on heroic difficulty really wasn't possible without this healing power, especially with the boss fights. From what I remember back in 2017 when I first got all the achievements, I didn't die too much in the heroic playthrough. Thus, during the playthrough I did for this video, maybe the game felt too easy to me since I already put myself through heroic difficulty. So when I replayed this game on insane difficulty, it didn't feel like much of a challenge. Thus, I wanted to test out one more thing. I wanted to see how difficult the game could get without using your healing ability and the ability where you use your katana powers that gain health back. After beating the game without these healing abilities, I can definitely say the game is so much better without them. Without the healing abilities, you can't just jump into fights and swing your sword around and back off and heal. You have to be much more precise in your dodging and aiming. Fights contain much more tension now since you don't have these special abilities to fall back on with your low health. The boss fights were actually menacing since they don't really spawn medkits on the arena, it's mostly ammo. Thus, if you take too much damage, you have to run around the perimeter while dodging attacks and trying to take shots at them as much as you can while hoping for a medkit to spawn. This final boss fight and the last arena fight before the second fight with Zilla, I died repeatedly, and it just made me much more determined to figure out what was the best strategy to overcome these encounters. This doesn't make the game perfect because your Shockwave ability is still overpowered, and so some sections that are supposed to be hard become pretty manageable. And, well, the Zilla fight is still as easy as it was before. After getting all the achievements back in 2017, I haven't replayed the game since until this past month. While I did have some issues concerning the design of the game, I still think it's a very enjoyable ride that I would recommend to anyone. Sometimes you just want to have fun and kill some demons. I'm going to look into purchasing Shadow Warrior 2. I have not looked into it too much, like gameplay or story stuff, because I just want to be surprised when I play the game and not be spoiled. So, possibly there'll be a future video comparing these two games. We'll see. That would probably be a fun video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time.